Fair enough. Thank you. I'll do that. I'll do that. And I, if I had to move around with money, and I would have. Yeah. One of the ugly ones. We'll be safe, okay? Nice seeing you. Take care. All right. Get on the Zoom sometime. You want to do a meeting on Zoom? You're all in the office. You guys have. You want to do that? Be there. You want to be there? Thank you for this.
Take care, Rick.
See you, Mr. Real Estate. You have a good one, man. Okay, I'm gonna have to start over because I forgot I shut off the recordings. For the rentals class, guys, I would urge you all, please focus on taking seller listings if you can. All right, you'll make a lot more money, and from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, you know it's a twofer. You'll get a buyer side out of the seller listing as well. So you'll have two sales in the time it would take you to do one rental listing. Okay, you also have to worry about discrimination. You could have a landlord that says, hey, don't bring me any, blank, fill in the blank protected class, right? You could have testers call you up and basically say, hey, Ronnie, I want to ask you some questions. And it's a person that sounds just like me. And then you have a few minutes later, your phone rings and it's an obvious minority that asks you the same questions, and you happen to do something a little bit different, or you treat them completely different, which would be horrible. I would hope that would never, ever happen, okay? So the golden rule, guys, treat everybody the same, and you'll probably be okay. And then disgruntled, unaccepted applicants. What I mean by that is really hot apartment, and, Teresa says, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get the apartment. And the person says, well, what is it about? What happened? Why didn't I get the apartment? And you actually answer the question. Oh boy, are you in trouble? Because let's say you said, Teresa, well, it was your credit. Well, what's wrong with my credit? Well, it wasn't very good. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I had my identity stolen, and you didn't ask me that. And I have this letter from my lawyer that, you're supposed to ask me this stuff before you talk about my credit. Guys, it's fraught with peril, okay? So be super, super careful. Here's what you say to everybody and anybody that is not getting the apartment. Okay, we're gonna cover it again in the future, but you say to them, and it's right there on the script, if you guys have your paper in front of you, in a minute we're all gonna read it aloud. The landlord decided to accept a different applicant, okay? Everybody say it with me on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The
landlord decided to accept a different applicant.
Yeah, great. So Scott, let's role play.
Okay.
Hey Scott, this is Rich Lannon. I showed you that apartment on 123 Main Street the other day.
Yeah, Rich, how are you?
Yeah, great. Just want to let you know, Scott, that the landlord decided to accept a different applicant. But
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. I want to just wish you the best of luck in your search, and if I find anything else that's really good, I'll certainly give you a call if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, sure. Did he tell you why?
No, he just decided to accept a different applicant.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, sir.
Great. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. You have a great day, and if I find anything else, I'll let you know. Thanks.
All right, great. Thanks.
Wow, that was easy. I figured you pushed back, Scott.
I wasn't sure how far you wanted me to go.
I don't care, because all I would have kept saying was, no, he just decided to accept a different applicant.
Got it.
You could have
Okay.
said, was it my credit? Oh, Scott, it was just he decided to accept a different applicant. I mean, guys, broken record. I can't stress it enough. Don't go there. Don't even open that Pandora's box. You just say,
Sure.
and eventually they'll get it. And they'll be like, okay, fine. You know, and guys, if they're terrible, like it was their credit and they don't have a job and they spent their stimulus checks on crack cocaine, then you're basically going to be like, don't, you can say that, you'll keep them in mind for another department. You're not going to. That application is getting in the shredder as fast as you can do it. You understand? However, if they are good, you know, hang on to it for a week or two in case you get something else if you're doing rentals like full time. And you can call them up and say, hey, if you're still looking for something, I just got something, would you be interested? And maybe just bang, bang, boom, you get another, you know, another apartment rented, okay? But if they're deadbeats, just get rid of them, all right?
So,
Any
Rich,
questions about that so far? Yes, Scott.
so this may not be, you know, accurate, but if, you know, they kept asking you and you kept saying the landlord decided to accept a different applicant, if they got to the point of, well, could I talk to the landlord? Maybe he could tell me.
Yeah,
Where do you go from there?
I mean, I think you should call them from here, right? And I think you'd be like, after a while, after a couple times, you'd be like, hello? Hello? Hallelujah? Hello? And right then they're going, no, I'm here. You're like, hello? I think I lost them. And then just don't ever call them again. And Tricia, don't laugh. You got to do that stuff, right? And if you see them calling again, you know, maybe let it go 2 or 3 times before you be like, oh yeah, you got me. I was in the middle of this, or I was in the middle of that. Yeah, what's up? You know, I mean, usually they get it and they understand. They know what's wrong with them. You guys, they do. They know what's wrong with them. They know if they have bad credit. They've heard from other people that then the knuckleheads out there have told them you got crappy credit, all right, or that you know you don't make enough money, or whatever it's going to be, all right. So, anybody wants to hang up, go right ahead, all right. Those of you that still want to keep, we'll keep going, all right. All right, fine. Here's some sample process for a successful rental listing, and we also going to have to do this in the age of coronavirus and May 4th and all that stuff, okay? Number one is go see the listing in person. My thought is, you know, with social distancing, probably a good idea to ask the landlord, is it occupied or vacant? Preferably it's vacant already. Say to them, great, why don't I, everybody have a realtor lockbox? Know what they are? Let me just grab one. Like here's one, okay? So if the landlord doesn't have one, you could say, okay, I'll shoot over there today and put it on the door. And what's a 4-number code you'll remember, Mr. Landlord? And they say 1, 2, 3, 4. No, not that. All right, and don't do 9768 either, okay? And then you make it as this one's on all zeros. Just opens up, hangs on the door. They have the code. They come by at their leisure and put a key in it. Okay, so you don't have to see them. You don't have to go talk to them. Then they tell you what's in there. You go and look at the apartment. Okay, so you're gonna wear gloves to let yourself in. Open up the lockbox. Okay, go in, write all your stuff down your clipboard, take all your notes, put the key back in the lockbox, lock it all up before you get in your car. Throw your gloves away. All right, and that's how you're gonna go preview the listing. You also want to verify that it's a legal rental unit with a town building inspector. We got a problem. They're not open. Okay. What do you need? Does anybody know what you need? It starts with E and rhymes with regress. You need 2 of.
Egress.
Yeah, exactly. If you see that it's got the front door and then nothing else, no other door, and you're like, what's up? You walk around the outside and there's like a window with, a ladder attached to the wall. Yikes. That might not fly these days. Okay. So more than likely it's a legit apartment. More than likely you'll look and see there'll be 2 egresses and you'll be fine. Ultimately, if you think you smell a rat, you may want to turn it down. Okay.
Hey, Rich, where's the best place to find the listings though? That was my struggle when I just had someone who's moving. She was moving here from the UK. She's going to buy from me in the future, but I was like, she goes, where do I look for apartments? And is it just Zillow and apartments.com like you have here?
Yep, we're going to do, I would suggest you can set her up on MLS as well. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this. There is rentals on there, the single family, condominium, multifamily, land, commercial, industrial, and rentals. So you can put her on there and have it so that anything new gets automatically emailed to her. Okay, so that's cool. And also, tell her if she wants to look on her own, because ultimately, if she's not willing to pay you, it's just going to gum up the works if you try to get a fee from the other broker. So then Zillow is good, apartments.com, Facebook Marketplace, people tell me. Anybody else doing rentals that knows of a good site besides the ones we just mentioned? Okay, that's fine. If in your travails you come across it, if you don't mind sharing that with me, and I'll put it out to the rental agents, that'd be great. Okay? All right, so you're going to finalize all the details of the listings, you guys. You need to know the number of the rooms, number of bedrooms, how many bathrooms it's got. Make sure you ask the landlord about things such as parking. Are they going to allow any parking? If so, how many and where? Okay? What about pets? A lot of people, they're animal lovers, but not in their rental units. Okay, so you got to know if it's a pet, what's okay. There are certain dogs that are banned for insurance, and if the landlord accepts them, things like an Akita. Right, if the tenant's got an Akita and it bites somebody, they're probably not covered. So that's a good chance that they're not going to want to take that type of dog. How about smoking? How about smoking marijuana? Medically acceptable now, 21 years and above. An ounce or less is a misdemeanor. So you have to ask them about that as well. Let me ask you a question, guys. If somebody has a medical marijuana card, yet it's a non-smoking apartment, including non-smoking of marijuana, what do you do?
Walk away.
No, that's a good answer, but edibles, they have to do edibles because it's a non-smoking apartment. I appreciate that, Mr. Tenant, that you have the right to have your marijuana, and that's great. My landlord isn't saying this is a non-marijuana apartment. It is a non-smoking apartment, so you must consume your medical marijuana by eating it, not smoking in the apartment. Okay, so you can do that. And you also want to find out when's the place available. When's it available? You need to also find out from the landlord, what do you want as far as deposits, okay? Guys, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are really struggling. So the least you can ask your landlord to take, the better, okay? If they'll just take first, I think that's wonderful. If they'll take first and payments of either last month's rent or security deposit, that's great too. Let's say it was a small little place for $1,200, right? And they did $1,200 first and an extra $100 a month for the year held by the landlord as last month's rent. That's not a bad little deal for everybody, right? So that way he or she gets a little bit extra to cover themselves, okay? Because we are in the middle of this testing time, and if they can be flexible, that may really work. All right. All right, so you've got the details listing. You also want to take your pictures. And for a rental, I think from your phone is fine, okay? You're going to place that ad out there on Zillow, apartments.com. If that landlord will authorize you guys, put it in MLS, but you'll see where we have to get that signed and initialed by the landlord, okay? And Facebook Marketplace, if you want to send an email out to everybody at Keller Williams, that's fine with us too. You can go on our intranet and post it there, all right? Here's an important disclaimer on all your ads, guys, okay? At the very bottom of your ad, every time you place an ad, the property advertised may no longer be for rental, okay? The property advertised may no longer be for rental, and that's for the testers, okay? If, somebody sounds like me, calls up and says, hey, Scott, you still got that apartment in Taunton? And you say, yes, and then I end up going down that afternoon and renting it, and another tester calls you, 4 hours later, yet that ad's still sitting up, and they say, and they're obviously a minority, and they say, hey, is that apartment still for rent? Oh, no, it's been rented, right? And a tester literally called you before and you said it was available, you're in deep trouble, man. But you can just say, oh, you saw on my ad, it does say the property advertised may no longer be for rental. I just hadn't had a chance to pull the ad down yet, but I will do that right now. Thank you so much for reminding me. You're a godsend. And the next thing you better do is pull that sucker down, right? Okay. Next step, you're going to fill out the rental listing on .loop, and you're going to send it to Lindsay here in our office. She's going to hold it in our office rental listing book. If you need it, if you ever need to know what we have for rentals, it's right behind Lindsay's desk, okay? She won't be in because the office is closed till after May 4th to update that book, but she will definitely take your emails and hold it probably in a virtual file someplace, all right? I don't even have to worry about testers showing up here between now and May 4th, because we're not officially open. All right. I'm in the office now. You guys can probably tell by those of you who see my office, you know what this looks like behind me all the time. But the front lights are off and the door's locked. So it's actually Alicia's here and Faye's here. So there's a few of us working. So it's really, really important at all times to keep the rental book up to date. When it gets back to normal and the testers start coming out again, if we don't have that book up to date, it's going to be, could look bad if a tester shows up and says, wait a minute, Rich, you tell me this is all you have, but yet I know for a fact that Scott Hunter's got that one in Taunton because I went and saw it with him. And I'll be like, oh boy, Scott, give me that listing, man. Okay. And if you would please also, if you're going to be an active rental listing agent, or even always working with tenants, you got to let Lindsay know, and then she will keep you up to date on what's going on with it. Okay. But as you do rentals, it's important that you keep, keep her up to date as well. Any questions so far on getting started with the rental listings? Okay. As far as, Brian, you asked a question. I mean, if you really want to spend the time, you can scroll through like the Craigslist and the Zillow.coms and find for rent by owners, okay? Except why would you? Why not just call, for sale by owners and just call your sphere and ask for seller listings. It's so much more profitable, okay? That's what I would recommend you do, guys. All right. So you're going to put this thing out there for rent, okay? And believe it or not, if it's well priced, and the fee is being paid by the landlord, so it doesn't cost the tenants anything to go through you, your phone should start ringing off the hook right away. Or you're getting pings from Zillow, emails from Zillow, texts from Zillow, apartments.com, Facebook Marketplace. Hey, I'm interested in the place, please get a hold of me, okay? Super, super important to get, maybe grab like a sheet of paper. If you think it's only gonna be a few, get a small one, all right? If it's gonna be a lot of people, get something bigger, like this bad boy here, and log all of the calls, emails, and texts just to be safe. Have a written record of everybody that reached out to you. And is it important for you to contact them back? 100%. Everybody should be nodding their head saying, yes, it really is, okay? If you call them back and there's no answer, log it and call again. There's no wrong number of times to call the people. I guess, maybe after 3 that you called, if I called you 3 times, Tricia, and you never called me back on my 3rd call, I'd probably say, hey, Tricia, it's Rich Lannon. You reached out to me about the apartment. This is my 3rd voicemail, so I'm guessing you're not interested anymore. So good luck with whatever you found and take care. Bye. And then you're pretty much done. Okay. So log all those guys. And don't forget, you want to avoid wasting everybody's time. Okay. Let's pre-screen the tenants to avoid that. All right. Let's say you have here's our sample apartment. It's a 1-bedroom, about, 400 square feet, no pets, no smoking, allows 1 car, okay? And it's available now. The tenant actually moved out in the middle of February and the landlord's getting anxious to get this thing rented, okay? So you call up and you say, hey, Brian, how many people are going to be living there? Right? How many
4.
4 people. Okay, I'm not sure if you're aware, Brian. It's a 1-bedroom and it's about 400 square feet. I don't know if you know this too, but the Board of Health does require that you need at least 120 square feet for a couple, and then an additional 50 square feet in the bedroom for each additional adult. So we would need a 220 square foot bedroom size, and it's actually 10 by 11. That's only 110 square feet, so the Board of Health wouldn't even let me rent it to you. I do wish you the best of luck in your search, and if I find anything else good, I can give you a call back, okay? Thanks, Brian. See ya. I mean, what a waste of time that would have been, you guys. If you didn't ask that question, you found out 4 people are going to live there, okay? Hey, Scott, when are you looking to move in? June 1st. Tell me June 1st.
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay,
June
great.
1st, there we go. Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
I don't know if you know this, but it's been vacant since the middle of February, and my landlord really, really wants to get somebody now. So if you don't mind, I'm going to keep your name and number here. And if I still happen to have this rental listing around the middle of May, I'll give you a buzz back. And if you haven't found anything yet, then maybe we can go take a look at it at that time, okay?
Okay, great.
I want to go see it now. I mean, I just want to know what's out there. I want to get myself ready to know the marketplace and everything. But you're not going to take it till June 1st. I'm not going to waste my time, dude. I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna, Maybe if you're having like a open house type of thing, but can we really do that in a pandemic? No.
No.
So I think you'd be like, all right, let me get back to you a little bit later in the month if I haven't rented it yet. That's it. Is that fair? That's fair, right, everybody? Okay,
Sure.
right.
So you can actually say what you said. Look, if you're not renting till June 1st, I'm not going to waste your time or my time doing
Or
this.
my landlord's time. Yeah, my landlord, it's been vacant for a month and a half. He wants rent like yesterday. He doesn't want to wait 3 more months. I don't care. You could be a Rockefeller and pay that rent every month, 10 days early. That's great, but he's going to miss out on 3.5 more months, 3.5 months total. No, he won't. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to find somebody soon. Okay. Let me ask you, Dave Cutler, how many vehicles are going to be parked on the property, sir?
2.
2, great. I don't know if you know this, but it only comes with 1 parking spot. Are you willing to park that other vehicle on the street?
That might be okay. It's a discussion I have to have with my housemate.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't we do this? Especially if he said, okay, 2 people living in a 1-bedroom or something like that. Why don't you have that discussion, Dave, and give me a buzz back if it's something you guys would be good with, okay?
All right, very good.
So that
Thank
way
you.
I got rid of him, right? But if things have been going well, it was going to be just him. He didn't smoke or vape or anything like that. He had no pets. Everything else was good. It was just that he had, his work truck and his regular vehicle. I would say, okay, if you, let's keep going and let's talk about this, Dave. Maybe it's something we can work out. Make sense, guys? Just use your common sense, okay? If it's not going well, find some reason to tell them, let's not waste each other's time, everybody. Let's just nip it in the bud here, okay? Any pet smokers or vapors, guys? Because the landlord doesn't allow any. Does not allow any. Well, I'll smoke out in the back steps. There aren't any back steps. It's just a doorway out the back, okay? And I don't think he's gonna go for that, but I can ask him and I'll get back to you. And then you could eventually, after you've called everybody else back, you can call your landlord and say, I have X number of people that won't say they'll smoke outside. Do you want me to show it to them or should I just not? And leave it up to your landlord. Ultimately, if your landlord says it will be written in the lease or the tenant will that there is no smoking inside the unit and they sign that, then I'm good with it. They just have to go smoke outside, okay? Make sure the tenant knows you're going to check their credit, their references. You're going to ask for a pay stub to verify their income, things like that. Okay. And that way, a lot of times they'll say to you things like, well, I don't really have the greatest credit. Okay. Well, you don't need to know why or whatever. Just let them know. My landlord is going to definitely want to know that, people pay their bills on time, because if they pay their bills to other people, they'll likely pay their landlord's bill, which is the rent. So it is going to be a determining factor. It's up to you if you still want to come and see the place, knowing that, he may choose somebody else. What do you want to do? Make sense, guys? All right.
Yeah.
Rich, some of these questions that obviously to ask them because you've been there and done this. Do we have like a sample sheet? Hey, make sure all of these questions at least get asked to the possible tenants or...
Yep, it's right there. It's at page 1 of the rental agenda, from important down to if they pass. Okay, and anything else as you do your rentals, guys, you come up with something else, just write it in there as well. Okay.
Okay.
And then as you got your sheet of paper with their name on it, right up here you wrote Scott, and then it's pets, no, smoking, no, what day moving, et cetera. You just answer the questions and everything gets checked off the box. Now they passed, and you're going to want to show it to them, okay?
Okay, got it.
Qualify by your pre-screening. Does that make sense? Also, make sure they understand, guys, if it's a lease or a tenancy of will, okay? You're going to get Section 8s that are going to say, well, I'm a Section 8. So what do we say to Section 8s?
Fine.
Of course. People will call you up and they'll say, do you take Section 8? And your answer's got to be,
of course we do.
Of course we do. Why wouldn't we? Let me just ask you some questions. Now here come your questions. And you ask them, how many people be living there? Maybe it's too small. When are you looking to move in? June 1st. How many vehicles we parked on the property? We have 17 cars. You never know with a Section 8, okay? Anybody have any pets? Yeah, we have 2 German Shepherds and a pit bull. How about anybody smoking or vapes? Well, I smoke, and my boyfriend, he vapes, and my kid has a medical marijuana card. I mean, all this stuff. No, my landlord doesn't allow any of that, Okay. And they are a protected class, guys. They're a protected class. So if your landlord says, I only want to do tenant at wills with a Section 8, if they qualify, that landlord has to make an amendment to his usual and customary regulations and accept the Section 8 tenant and sign the lease. Okay, they're a protected class now. All right? All right. And make sure,
So if the landlord wanted a tenant at will and the Section 8 person passes, he has to make it a long-term lease?
1-year lease, yep. Yep. So basically, you've got to have that conversation with your landlord that, yeah, I appreciate that you want to have a tenant at will, and that's what I'll ask for, Mr. Landlord and Mrs. Landlady. However, I just need you to know that the rules have been, the laws have been changed, and the Section 8 tenants now, the housing, government housing type of people that require the lease are protected. And if the best tenant we get happens to be a Section 8, you will have to amend that policy and you will have to go and sign the lease. You understand? Now, that said, I will hopefully get multiple applicants and maybe you like somebody you choose better, but it's up to you. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, Mr. Landlord, okay? And if
Can I ask you,
yeah, go ahead.
Rich, I was going to ask just a clarifying question because I want to make sure I understand it clearly that so there are situations where the landlord is bound to this applicant and must move forward with them as a tenant with the 1-year lease. There's no out for them. They have to amend their listing and accept this renter. Is that right?
If the Section 8 tenant qualifies and is accepted by the landlord, yes. Okay. And he can't, or landlady can't say, I'm just not going to take you because I don't want to sign a lease. That's not acceptable anymore. Not acceptable anymore.
Understood.
Okay? So there you go. So make sure they understand that. Okay. All right, great. And make sure they understand that he requires, first, last, and security. Well, I can't come up with that much money. Okay. What can you come up with? Well, I can come up with first months. That's it. Okay. Let me talk to my landlord and see if that's going to be acceptable. Now, if you've got 20 other names to call back, they're probably going to fall to the bottom of your list, right? But if they have what the guy's looking for, the landlady's looking for, they've got the first and the last, so they've got the first and security. So they've passed, things are looking good. You want to schedule the time then, guys, to go see them, okay? Now, I used to recommend, as you can see on the sheet, like an open house day, okay? I don't think you can do that anymore. And especially if you're going to be charging the tenants a fee, which in this economy, again, probably not a good idea to tell your landlords that you can get your fee from the tenant until the dust settles here, and people don't know if they're going to still have a job or if they're going to catch the coronavirus and be sick for 3 weeks and get laid off, to have them actually come up and pay first, last, and a fee, or first, last security and a fee, going to be tough to do in this economy, okay? So I would suggest you tell your landlords, in light of the economy, the coronavirus pandemic, that you, Mr. Landlord, are going to pay me and I won't charge a tenant. My fee with you is going to be blank. Now, get what you can get. If you can get a full month, great. If it's a half a month, great. Whatever you can get. I mean, make sure it's worth your time to be going out there and showing the place. Okay, everybody? All right, cool. So I used to suggest an open house, but let's say you're not going to have the fee disclosure for the tenant. You could do probably every 5 to 10 minutes, have people come in. And here's what you do. You get there early and you go in, unlock everything, wearing those gloves, right? Everything's unlocked, the doors are open, and lights are on. And then you go outside. And I'm hoping the weather's decent, okay? If there's a porch or something you can stand on that's at least 6 feet away from the door, fine. And you've told everybody, I will be waiting on the porch for you. When you get there, come on up and see me and I'll send you in, okay? They come up, you wave to them. Tell them to head on in. It's the first door on the right. Take a look around, come back out when you're done, and let me know. So they go in there, look around. The next people show up, you tell them, can you just wait outside for a minute? We got somebody in there, okay? The first people come out, you say to them, hey, what do you think? Did you like it or not? No, we didn't really like it. Okay, great. Have a nice life. See you later. They're gone. Second people come in, go and look around, same thing. First door on the right, I'll be out here if you got any questions. They come out, what do you think? You like it? We love it. We think we want to fill out an application. Great. What's your email address? I will email it to you when I get home tonight. You log that sucker down, guys. And the ones that say they want an application, you send it to them. Maybe they want it ahead of time so they can already have it filled out. But don't accept, if they go to hand it to you, say, "Look, no, scan and email it to me later." You don't want to be exchanging papers with people you don't even know. Make sense? Okay? So, so get everybody in as close to all at once as you can. Otherwise, what are you going to be doing? I mean, geez, David, you could be running back and forth from your house to this apartment, 6 times a day. I mean, what a waste of time, right? So make sure you're trying to get everybody in around the same time. All right. And like I said, if you're going to be charging them a fee, which I would discourage in this economy, when things turn around, I strongly, strongly recommend that you get their email address and email them. Each individual tenant you're going to be charging the fee disclosure in advance. That way they can't say that they didn't see it before they came to see the apartment, okay? It is required by law that you tell the tenant up front in writing and actually get their assent to it that they're going to be paying a fee, okay? So in a non-coronavirus time, you would probably stand in front of the door and block the door until they've come back and handed you the agency disclosure, the fee disclosure signed that you can have your copy, okay? And then they just can't come in if they don't sign it. But this is coronavirus, so you're not going to be exchanging papers, are you? Make sense? Okay?
Mhm.
Questions on the actual showings and stuff? Now it's all done. Everybody's done for the day. Last person showed up and left. You want to go back in, maybe new pair of gloves. You touch the handles, turn off all the lights, lock everything up, and again, throw those suckers away before you get in your car and drive home. Follow up with the people that were interested and make sure you send them applications, the credit check form and all that they need to fill out, okay? So you've had a successful showing and a lot of people on there, sent you back applications. So here's what you're going to need some forms, aren't you? I'm going to cover those. You're going to need your rental application and your credit check form. These are all in the packet here, by the way. Well, not the credit check form. We got to go over that a little bit later. And then the fee disclosure if you're charging the tenants a fee, okay? Now, this is all going to have to be virtual because of the fact that you don't want to be handing anybody paper. You're going to be, emailing them to them, okay? So before you want to do your rental, you've got to basically get these forms saved on your desktop or someplace so you have them so you can send them out to people, okay? All right, I said bring lots of copies of each and pens for people to fill out, sign at the property. That's in non-coronavirus times, okay? Because you do not want to be that close to these people, all right? That's page 1 of the agenda. Any questions so far on it?
I have a question, Rich, it's more related to the coronavirus thing than anything because we just have talked a couple times. So tomorrow I have a showing that I'm going to be doing on behalf of a buyer. Now I know it's not a rental, but in light of the virus and sanitary purposes, would you suggest that this single buyer that I'm showing this property to, that I follow the same protocol that you mentioned a moment ago? So go in with gloves, turn everything on, and then wait for them at the door, let them walk around the property. And this buyer I have a lot of trust in. He's a good friend of mine, so I don't have to worry about theft or anything like that. Would you say to follow that same protocol, or that it's okay to enter the property with the buyer if it's just, just 2 or 3 people at most in the full group
I
setting?
think that's a great protocol to follow. Here's the caveat, okay? Call the listing agent and make sure they understand this is what you're going to do and make sure they're cool with it. I personally, I'm only going to be listing vacant properties for the foreseeable future, and I'm going to encourage the showing agents to go there early, open the door, turn the lights on, and then go wait in their car, let the buyer in. And the buyer goes and looks all around, comes back out, and you can basically from your car, hey, thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down, how was it? And they're going to tell you, they give you the thumbs up, say, okay, cool, I'll be in touch with you later, and we'll talk about, doing an offer via .loop or DocuSign, whichever one you're using right now, okay? And they leave, don't forget, go back in the house, Dave, turn off with new gloves, turn off all the lights, and shut the door, reset the lockbox, whatever you got to do with the key, and before you get in your car, take those gloves off, throw them away. Okay, don't throw them on the street, guys. You can put them in your pocket, or if there's a trash can someplace, you throw them out. But, I guess the Braintree police have been saying they've been finding latex and rubber gloves all over the place because people are just disposing them wherever, which is terrible. So, all right, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, cool, no problem at all. Okay. Now it's time to screen the tenants, okay? So basically what you want to do is three important things you want to do. Contact their previous, and what I mean by previous is like not the current landlord, the landlord or landlady 2 or more ago, okay? On your rental application form, it does say, I'll point this out to you, it says previous landlord, and there's space on there to have them fill it out, okay? And you'll also, when you start doing your credit checks, we recommend a company called Sangionics, and I'll get to that a little bit later too, but they do say dates and residences that people lived besides where they are applying from now. And if it says 2017, they lived at 123 Main Street, apartment 4, and you look it up on MLS and it is an apartment building, and they never listed that previous landlord, call them up, be like, hey, I noticed on here that you didn't mention that you rented from Joe Smith at 123 Main Street. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Joe. Yeah. Well, do you happen to have his number? Oh, sure, he's still on my phone. I got him right here. All right, now anybody want to hazard a guess why you want to talk to the landlord that they're not living with right now, that they lived with before?
Yeah, because they didn't pay the rent.
Is that Teresa?
Find out why they left? I don't know.
There's a lot of things, Teresa. It's the basic thing I found is that that person's got no reason to lie to you. Okay, they'll tell you the truth usually. If I have a tenant, I have apartments myself. Okay, and if I had a tenant, and I'm not like this, I wouldn't return their call. But there are landlords that they will say anything to get rid of their problem. Anything. Okay, so they'll be like, "Oh, I have an application in front of me for Trisha Daly. How was she as a tenant?" I'm just picking on you, Trisha. I can't help it because you're right there on my screen. Oh, Trisha was great. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's leaving. Oh, I'm so sad. She paid the rent every month on time, and the place is spotless. And oh, I'm so sorry to see her go. She hasn't paid me in 3 months and she's ruined it. And I'm so happy she's getting the frig out of my apartment. Yay! That's what they'll say, you guys. They will lie through their teeth to get somebody else to have that problem, not them. Okay? Now, if it's 2 tenants ago, right, and somebody calls me up and Trisha was my tenant 2 tenants ago, and they say, hey, I was Trisha Daly. I'd be like, oh, man, I wish I had more Trisha Daly. She was awesome. She kept the place clean. She always paid rent on time, you know. I wish she'd know I have a vacancy right now. I should call her up and have her come move back into my place. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. But no, she was really good. And if you see her, you know, when you're talking to her, tell her I said hi because she's a wonderful person. That's the kind of landlord reference you're looking for, guys. Okay. From the previous one that has no vested interest in it. Okay. I had one time that I left a message for the guy and he called me back that night and he said, I can't believe she had the you-know-whats to put me down on her application. I said, what do you mean, sir? He says, she tried to kill me. I'm like, what? The guy says, yeah, I was in bed sleeping and she tried to burn the house down, literally.
Oh.
This happened. So I called the girl, and this is before I even knew all this stuff, right? So I told her, I said, you're not going to get the apartment. She goes, do you mind if I ask why not? I said, well, you didn't exactly get a glowing reference from your previous landlord. And this is exactly what she said. She said, I would have thought he would have forgot by now.
Oh my God.
How do you forget that someone wants to try to kill you? Oh my God. So anyway, that's why you do that, okay? Then you also, the second thing you want to do is, and you're going to run their numbers, okay? And what I mean by that is you want to get a pay stub. Like right now, this is what, March 31st? So somebody gives you a pay stub now, it's roughly a quarter of the year. So you would then take that amount of money and multiply it by 4. And then you know what their annual is. And then, or divide it by 3, because you want to know what the monthly is, okay? What you're getting at is how much money do they make per month, okay? If you've got an apartment that costs, let's pick on Scott, because he's going to get one for probably like $1,500, all right? And the person makes $2,200 a month. Do they qualify, anybody? What do you think? Apartment's $1,500. No. No, because what's the number I have on page 2? I say roughly 28%. Okay, the reason I say 28% is that's like about what a mortgage company wants to see at the high side for you to spend on your housing debt. Can you boost that to 30 or 33? Sure. If everything else is good, go right ahead. Okay. So let's for Scott's $1,500. Let's say the person makes $5,500 a month. Would that be enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that, right? Because that's less than 28%, okay? Then the last step is you're going to pull their credit, criminal background check, eviction, housing court info. and rerun the numbers, okay? Scott's got his apartment for $1,500, and he's got this nice young kid that just got out of medical school, and all his deferred student loans are starting to have to be paid back. And the kid has to pay, he's making that $5,500, and he's got to pay $1,500 additional in debt, student debt. Now he's at $3,000 a month on $5,500 a month in income. Does he still qualify for the apartment?
It's close. No, not at all.
Not even 40%. 40%, guys. Okay. This all makes sense, Kim Han? You understand? So if somebody's spending
Yeah.
too much money on their housing and all their bills, if it's more than 40%, it's a proven ratio that they've gonna at some point they're not gonna stop eating. They're not gonna stop doing the things that they like to do the most. They're gonna stop paying somebody. And at some point, it's probably gonna be your landlord because they just have too much debt, too much obligations. Okay. So that's what you're gonna suggest to your landlord. Hey, listen, applicant X has a lot of debt and the ratio is higher than 40%. We've found that 40% or more obligations, including rent, not sustainable after a long period of time. So my advice to you would be, don't take them. And let them say, okay, I won't. And then they said it, not you. Okay? Great.
So the 40% is including all rent, all debt?
Yes. The San Giannis credit report, Tricia, at the bottom, or at the top, I'm sorry, it'll tell you the monthly obligations for the revolving debt and any other debt. It tells you the exact amount per month. So you add that into the rent, okay? And basically then just rerun your numbers, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So, and once again, if, they have too much debt and your landlord, you'd say, I really wouldn't, take this person on as a tenant. When you call them back and say, the landlord has decided to go with somebody else.
The landlord has decided to accept a different tenant, yeah.
Got it.
Right? So if you've taken an application from somebody and they're not good, you don't have any other applications, I guess you just stall as long as you can. Okay. So yeah, I'm still working on it. I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, I'll keep you posted, or Mr. Debbie Tenant. Mr. Tenant. I'll keep you until you finally get somebody else that's acceptable, and then you could say the landlord decided to accept a different tenant. Remember, you're a broken record. Okay.
Yeah.
Scott, on your question, if it's close, okay, if it's like 42, 43%, if they've been working at that job for 6 years, it's a recession and coronavirus proof type of job that that they're going to be steady employed. If their credit is really good, they pay everybody on time. San Giannis gives you a 0 to 10. 10 is excellent credit. They will tell you anything 8 and above is excellent credit. So if they've got, and they had a really good previous landlord reference, you're basically pointing out to the landlord that, hey, listen, they're tight on debt. All right, I'd like to have seen 40%. Everything else looks good. What do you want to do? Let them decide, okay? Let them decide. Maybe the guy picks up something, maybe he starts a gig type of thing. He starts driving for Lyft or Uber and starts making extra cash and pays down the debt. If you didn't take him, you missed out on a good tenant possibly. Okay, everybody? So I'll ultimately let the landlord decide who they're going to accept. You just give all the info, and please give it unbiasedly. Just state the facts, okay? Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Lay them out there for them. And how do you decide who goes first? I think you basically go by the ones that checked out. Okay, that number one, they were the first applicant. Number two, they checked out. Everything checked out. Okay, so in that kind of chronological order of checking out. If you've got 3 of them that checked out, tell about all 3 and let him or her decide. Okay. The landlord says, I want to take that Tricia Daly. She sounds great. Okay. Immediately, guys, you're going to reach out to Tricia and say, hey, Tricia, congratulations. You're getting accepted on that 123 Main Street. You still want it? Do you still want it, Tricia?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank God. Okay, great. Let's meet really soon, and I'll get the paperwork signed up, and I get those checks from you, okay?
Okay.
Sounds good. Now, guys, this is the part where you still have to meet somebody in person, okay? You can do the dot loop of the papers. However, you do need to go get the checks like ASAP. So maybe they meet you, come here to the office, or, you go to their house and they meet you in the parking lot or something, but you basically got to get the checks in hand. You know, without the money, you got nothing. You understand, everybody? So get the checks in hand as soon as possible, and you get the document signed by .loop if you want to do it remotely, okay? Sorry, my phone's ringing. All the other applicants, once you've gotten the tenant signed up, once everything is signed up, you're going to call them, the ones that applied, because remember, you're a tester, and you're going to say, the landlord decided to accept a different applicant. Do not deviate from the script. The landlord decided to accept a different applicant, okay? Here's what you could say. If they were a good tenant and a good, a good applicant, you could say, listen, it was really close, and I wish I had another apartment for you. Do you mind if I keep your information handy here in case I do get something in the near future or hear of something? Because why not, guys? If you already screened them and you know they're good, if something falls in your lap, why have to work twice as hard? Maybe you have a quick little one-time shot to get yourself another commission check, right? Fair enough? Okay.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Real quick, I know there's a lot of what ifs. But let's say that, something came about with, their past landlords did not give them a good recommendation, or their numbers just didn't add out. How long can you string someone along until you find a better tenant before you can actually say, my landlord has decided to accept another applicant?
I mean, I think it would also be okay, Scott, to say the landlord decided not to accept your application. But that's going to be like, they're going to be like, well, why not? He just decided not to. Sorry.
Right.
He just decided not to. He wants me to continue to look for somebody else. Well, was it because I'm a protected class? Come on now. Of course not. He just decided he wants me to continue to look for something else. I mean, it's a you're fraught with peril. That's why you hope to God that you get the right type of person immediately or soon, and that way it's rented and it's done. Okay. There is one thing though, and I have it written on the agenda page too. If the credit report was the cause of declining, okay, if it truly was their credit, you have to tell them where your credit was pulled. So what you could say is, hey, listen, the landlord decided he wants me to keep looking for another tenant. I do want you to know that you filled out that form for me to check your credit with Sangionics, and I did pull your credit with Sangionics. And here is their information. All right, and you text that to them, okay, or email it. It's got to be in writing, class, okay? Everybody got that? Got to be in writing. And that will probably, light will dawn on Marblehead, and they'll realize, oh, something's wrong with my credit. Now it's on Sangionics to handle them. Okay, now it's on Sangionics to handle them. Okay, so make sure that's in writing, everybody. Got that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, any questions? Okay. Yeah.
So if you run the credit and the credit came back negative, you have to let them know that you ran it on Sangionics.
Yeah, wherever you end up running it, Tricia. If you find a vendor that works better for you, it's just it's going to have the three things that we want, which is a credit check, the criminal background check, and then the eviction housing court check as well, because those are really important things. If they've got a criminal background and they didn't, and you'll see on the form where it says that they didn't check it off, then they're lying about being a felon. That's a problem. That's a real problem. You could be putting the other people at risk that are in the building. Okay, and guys, does it make sense that if they have a eviction housing court judgment against them from a landlord in Nebraska, that they at one time they did not care about paying the rent and actually got not foreclosed, evicted? Do you think that they'll prioritize rent now? Probably not. Do you think your landlord wants to know that stuff? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So if the credit report was the cause of declining, you just have to tell the tenant, hey, by the way, you filled out that Sangionics form, and so I did pull your credit from Sangionics. Here's their information, and it's basically right at the form. It says their address and their phone number and all that stuff. Okay.
You can just give them the report.
No, we're gonna go.
No.
No, the only one who gets the report is you.
Okay.
You hold on to that report in your files for at least 3 to 7 years. Okay. Okay. And Sangionics will go over all this with you guys. You're going to sign a 17-page document that you really got to read through tells you what you can and can't do with the credit reports, but basically it goes to you and you only, okay? There are extenuating circumstances that you can share the report, and that would be if you are on Sangionics and a landlord comes to you and says, hey, I don't want you to do the rental for me. I want to just have you pull the credit report. Can you do that for me? You can. And just charge them whatever you want to charge them. You can charge them $100. I don't care. You can make money on it if you want. It only costs you 15. Okay. But that said, those type of people where you're not getting a fee to do the rental and you're not doing the work, those you can email them over the report because they basically then paid for the report. Okay. That's the only ones. Okay. So otherwise, you're just going to tell them they have good credit, they have bad credit, and they have this amount of money per month in their obligations. And that's it. Okay.
I have a question. This is Ronnie. What about the whole background check issue? Is there a disclaimer here that, I mean, once we run the background check, and that's the reason why the landlord doesn't want to rent? Is it written in, what kind of notification do we need to give for that? If they ask?
So that also, Ronnie, criminal background and the eviction housing court all come from Sangionics. If it's one of those three reasons, you then say to them, by the way, if you remember as part of your application process, well, let me back up. The landlord decided not to accept you.
Okay.
And as you remember, Ronnie, from filling out your application form, you filled out the Sangionics background, criminal background check and credit check and all that stuff. And I did check all that with Sangionics, and here's their info. And then again, the light dawns on Marblehead. Hopefully they remember, oh yeah, that's right. I did beat that guy nearly to death and spent 3 years in jail for it. And I forgot to check off the form that I was a felon. Kind of forgot that part. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There's other super important points to remember, guys. And this is, again, for testers, just for everybody, remember the golden rule, okay? Never, ever, ever ask them, where are you from? Where are you from? I mean, they might have the most delightful, Caribbean island accent, and you just love it. And you're like, where are you from? Because you just can't help yourself. No, don't do it. It's discriminatory, okay? Because you wouldn't ask that of me. I'm from Illinois, right? See, nobody's gonna ask me where I'm from. Okay. Here's the key one, and Scott and I talked about this yesterday. If the landlord wants a pet fee, they're illegal. So you can't do that. So what do you do is this. Let's say you're gonna go for $1,500, you go for $1,600. Okay, and you say this landlord will allow 2 dogs up to a total of 50 pounds, or 1 dog up to 50 pounds, okay?
Pet fees are illegal?
Pet fees are not legal. Anybody out there paying a pet fee right now?
My sister.
I mean, I've run into a lot of places that charge a pet fee.
Yeah, and what they should do is at the end of the lease, say, oh, by the way, can you send me a check for my pet fee because it's been illegal? And if you want me to call the Attorney General, I'd be happy to, because there'd be a lot of other people that would love to get their pet fees back too.
Wow.
Guys, you can't do it. All you can do is one rent for people with pets. And if somebody says, if Tricia comes to you, Scott, and says, hey, I don't have a pet, but I'm still interested in the apartment. Oh, hey, listen, the landlord will do $1,500 for you. With no pets, you can do $1,500.
So you have to set it at $1,600 to sort of bake in that pet fee because you can't increase the rent request in finding that information out. Okay.
You got it. If you say on your ad the rent is $1,500 and somebody says, hey, I see you accept pets. It's $1,600 with pets. That's a pet fee, and you just violated the law. So you start high, drop down. Okay. So there you go. And if they have no pets, you can lower it for the 10. So pet fees are illegal. So who said that their sister has a pet fee?
I did, Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa, make sure you let her know right now. Hey, I just saved you some money, sis. So looks like the next time we can go out after coronavirus, dinner's on you.
He owes me, yeah.
He owes it, right? Okay. Let's say if somebody's going to get a security deposit, the landlord's going to get a security deposit. My understanding in Massachusetts is you need an ink, like a wet signature on the original W-9 form. Okay. Citizens Bank was the one that taught me this. Okay. And it's got to be the newer version. I'll make sure you have it. It's in the pile here. Okay. All right, let's talk about service animals. They must be allowed, okay? What that means is, I'm looking at Brian's picture. So if Brian had, if he was blind and had a seeing eye dog, you can't discriminate even if there's no pet policy, okay?
Can you charge for the service animal?
What's that, Kim?
Can you charge a fee for the service animal?
Well, that would be the pet fee, right? The pet fee would have been 1,600 instead of 15, so they're paying for it. But yeah. Now here's where you get tricky. Okay, a comfort or emotional support animal. The tenant has to show that it's necessary by a recent, and I would say 12 months or so, order of a physician or mental health professional. And you can ask your landlord, will you accept one from the Philippines? Oh, no, it's got to be in the United States. Okay, my landlord requires it to be from the United States. But my doctor's in Malaysia. Sorry, it's got to be United States. Okay. If so, though, guys, if they can provide one, all right, come on. If they got a doctor from down the street that says, you know, Trisha Daly needs her pet horse because it's a emotional support horse. Have it. Okay, you got to let it. Okay, again with the pet fee, you know, not pet fee, but the pet rent. Make sense?
Gotcha.
Then they must be allowed. All right. Now here's the one that's not a therapy animal. So if Teresa came to you and said, I have this therapy llama that oh my God, I can't live without the thing. You're like, a therapy animal, Teresa? No, it's not allowed. The landlord has a no pet. But I have a note from my doctor that I need this thing for my therapy. Sorry, it's not a protected class. And my landlord has a strict no pet policy. You and your llama got to go live somewhere else.
So there is a difference between emotional support animal and therapy animal?
Apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, so you're going to have to get the paperwork, obviously, and it's not discriminatory to ask for it. You know, if somebody shows up and they walking through the apartment and they're petting their little pet dog the whole time they're going through, you're like, oh, I thought I told you there's no pets. Oh, this is my therapy animal. No, but I have a comfort letter signed by my physician in Milton, Massachusetts that says I need this thing because I have, you know, PSTD or whatever it is, right? You can't discriminate, guys. You just can't. Okay. All right.
So that's a protected class, huh?
Correct. Yep. Protected class. When you guys have a chance, you're going to go to the Code of Ethics class, and they talk about fair housing and stuff. Pay attention. Really pay attention, especially when you do rentals, because you can really get tripped up on stuff and not even mean to, and you're not trying to discriminate. You just forget who's a class and who's not. Okay. We don't do Airbnbs or VRBO type rentals here. Tax liability, okay? You would be responsible to not only collect, but to pay the 7% local sales tax. Isn't that wonderful? So we just don't do them, okay? All right, so that's the meat of the class. We're gonna spend the next 30 minutes quickly going over the forms you need to get yourself paid. All right, we're done with page 2. Any questions on this so far? All right, moving along, page 3. I'm mostly now for the next few pages going to detail with seller or landlord listings, okay? So you're going to have to give an agency disclosure to your landlord. This can all be sent via .loop, okay? And the big thing on it, if you look and notice, okay, it does say that, and I've crossed off that, it's seller's agent, it says landlord below it. See where it says landlord, everybody? Landlord, okay?
Yeah.
So that's how you're going to amend this thing. It's the landlord. And down here, it'll say signature of consumer, and you're going to cross off seller and write in landlord. And if it's 2 people, 2 landlords, okay? So what you want to do, if you're going to do rentals, is may as well have 5 or 6 or 7 of these in your briefcase, because once the coronavirus passes, you know, you might be doing rentals in front of people all the time, and you want to have these forms handy, okay? And you obviously, if you've been to my agency class, you know you got to fill it out with your stuff, information on you, sign it, print your name and your license number, and if you're a broker or salesperson, okay? And always, guys, you want to fill in Keller Williams Realty Showcase Properties and our license number 7737. And you date it today's date when you meet those people, okay? This is the back side of it. This one goes to them. You don't need to pay attention. If you want to read it, great reading. Just like reading the lead paint form, it'll make you sleep in no time. Promise. All right. If you're going to get a lease and it's not something you know super well, I would recommend you get this agreement signed. Okay, the agreement for exclusive right to lease. If it is, you know, Scott, you got a good buddy, your good friend's kid, you might not have to get this signed, but it's up to you if you want to get it in writing. Okay. So let's spend some time going over it. Basically, you're going to put a date on it, put the address in. All contracts have to have a beginning and an end. So it's got a start and a commencement, okay? Paragraph I says different things you can do, like put a sign on there, advertise a property, and cooperate with other real estate brokers if you wanted to. So any of those you're going to do, you got to check those boxes. Okay. Double I, you're going to basically, any inquiries they get have to come to you. Okay. They can't go and rent it behind your back. Paragraph 3, you want to put in a certain number of months. I would say maybe 1 or 2 months after. That's if somebody you've shown it to goes behind your back and tries to rent it from the landlord, you'd still get your fee. Okay. Broker's commission shall be as follows. Get whatever you can get, guys. The most you can is the best. Okay. It's payable in full upon the execution of both parties of the lease agreement. So when everybody signs the papers, that's when you get your payment. Okay. Some reimbursement expenses, you can get them. Usually you can't. Okay. You're going to market the property in compliance with fair housing laws. So basically, the landlord can't say, I don't want any blank. Okay. You can also possibly get compensation from the lessee under paragraph 7. In this economy, we talked about that. Might not be a good idea. Okay. If you want to put in MLS, guys, you have to check off that MLS addendum. And definitely, if you're going to put a lockbox on there, that box in the middle of the box, you want to get that one checked off as well. Okay. Everybody signs it. The broker would be Keller Williams Realty Showcase Property by you, and you can say it's rental agent. Okay. And then the 2 owners or landlords, however many owners and landlords you have sign there where it says owner or spouse. Okay. Questions on that bad boy? Pretty self-explanatory, right? Yeah. All right. You got your Schedule A here. Okay. This is kind of important. This is page 6. All right. Page 6. Monthly rent. That's really important to know, right? Length of lease term. And that's either going to be 1 year, sometimes they do 5 year, whatever, very seldom, but it could also be month by month. That's also called a tenancy of will, or TAW, you can put in there, okay? Estimated term commencement date, you're hoping to get somebody for April 15th, it says. Security deposit, yes or no? And remember, you guys may not exceed 1 month's rent, okay? Let me ask you a question here. Ronnie, if someone says to you, I know I got bad credit and I don't have a job right now, but I will give you all 12 months in cash at the start of the lease if you'll accept me. Can you do that?
I'm not sure.
That's a great answer. Great answer. And the answer is no.
The answer is no.
As much as you appreciate that and be like, oh my God, that's so wonderful. What a wonderful offer you gave me. All you can take by law is first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, and a reasonable lock and key fee, which is usually the cost of a locksmith and a lock set. So maybe $150, $200. That's it, guys. Nothing else.
Wow.
So somebody says to you, I can pay the entire thing up front. Oh, how nice that would be, And you can tell your landlord that might be a weighing factor. They said they would have done it. Now, you can't do it though, Mr. Landlord. If you do it, you're breaking the law. So don't do it. But they at least can give you first, last, and security. Now the guy's he's covered for 3 months. He might take them. I mean, they might have inherited money. They might have sold a big house. They might have hit the lottery. Who knows? Who knows what they did? But if they don't qualify otherwise, you can't just go and do that. Okay. Advance payment of last month's rent is a yes or a no, and special requirements. Now, Scott, you were asking where do you write all this stuff down? That's where I would write down no smoking, no pets, 1-car parking, whatever else you can think of. No marijuana, no vaping, any of those things on there. Okay. Or if pets are acceptable, what type of pets? Okay. And then reimbursable expenses. The one thing you can't charge them for though is that credit check. That has to come out of your commission. Okay. Everybody understand? So what reimbursable expenses might be: professional photography. If you want to have Ashley Trapp go in there with her Matterport camera and do a virtual tour in light of this, maybe the landlord will pay you back for that. If anyone else can think of a reimbursable expense, shout it out. Yeah, I can't think of anything much either. If you think of it, maybe shoot an email back to the group at some point, okay? All right. Here we go. Paragraph, page 7. Disclosure best for landlords. Okay, best for landlords. And basically it says the parties acknowledge and understand that Brian Walensky is going to be receiving a rental fee from the following parties. And you would check off if it's the landlord in the amount of whatever the fee is. Okay. And you put in the month, day, and year, you sign it, and the landlord signs it. And then eventually the tenant will sign this form acknowledging that you got paid by the landlord, not by them. okay? And you can see where you have to sign it down toward the bottom, okay? That's page 7.
Mhm.
Questions? Okay, cool. Next 3 pages have to be filled out by the landlord. First 3 are just the form itself. Again, if you can't sleep, if you read pages 8, 9, and 10, guaranteed not to write out, okay? But we've got to fill this bad boy out. All right, this is the actual action page on page 11, okay? And I wrote at the top, if you please all would Google the Mass Lead Safe Homes website. You can cheat before you go and look at the place and see by putting in the city, the street name, and the address number if they've ever had a lead test done for that apartment, okay? And if it says, you need to take a lead paint class, guys, I'm not gonna go too much into it here, but if you basically Google it and you say and it says violations found, call me, okay? Call me. If it says letter of compliance issued, you're good. It's lead free, okay? So violations found, nothing else, call me. If it says letter of compliance, you want to ask your landlord for the letter of compliance because now you got a de-leaded apartment, which is wonderful. Which is wonderful because a lot of times people will say, I don't want to rent to any children. Are children protected class?
Yes.
It's discriminatory to say you don't want kids, okay? So it's very, very difficult if it's a 4-bedroom with a park in the backyard and it's not de-leaded to say to the landlord, I'm not going to be able to get 4 roommates here probably. It's going to be tough, you know? So are you prepared to make it lead safe for whoever comes in? Again, take the lead paint class, guys. They've changed the rules and regulations on that so much in the landlord's favor that there's ways around it, okay? But they really should commit to you to say, hey, before you rent my apartment, I'll guarantee you that if I get a tenant that's got little kids, I'll make it lead safe. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, okay?
Now,
right.
Rich, real quick, I mean,
Yep.
obviously we need to go to this lead safe homes to verify, but if it's a fairly new complex, like within the last 5 or 10 years, there should be no lead paint being used, correct?
First paragraph, right? Housing built before 1978.
Yep.
Only the older housing stock. So guys, anything 78 or above, right? Before
Right.
1978. 78 or above is when they knew the last can of lead-based paint went off the shelves.
Got it. I wasn't sure if it was the
Yeah,
same
you're
for
good.
rental places it was
No.
for,
And if it's in the 70s, it's probably fine.
right.
There may be traces here or there, but not enough to make a kid sick. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what we got to do is you got to have the landlord, who's the owner, disclose what they know, and it's either A, that they do know about the presence of lead-based paint. Okay. In which case they would say, yes, we know about the lead-based paint, and it would usually be as per my lead inspection report on such and such a date. Okay. Or 90% of your landlords are going to say subset II that they have no knowledge about lead-based paint. Okay. Again, take that lead paint class, guys, whenever you can. Okay. Then also the landlord has to disclose letter B. Okay. Now, if they have checked off subset I under letter A, they have to check off subset I under letter B. Because if they know about lead-based paint, then they must have something, some sort of documents. Okay. Like the lead inspection report or risk assessment, letter of internal control, or letter of compliance. They got to have one of those. If they've lost their paperwork, you will see from the Lead Safe website who did the testing, and you can reach out to that person, okay, and ask for another copy. And it may cost you. I would suggest that be a reimbursable expense. You know, if you go to Anthony Jakitis, who did a ton of lead inspections, and you say, Anthony, my guy lost his report. Can you email me one? He'd be like, yeah, it's $50 or $75. You say, okay, that's fine. I'll get it back to my landlord. Now you got the report in your hand, okay? But again, if they did subset II under letter A, they're likely going to do subset II under letter B, that they have no idea about lead paint in the apartment, okay? And that's fine, as long as they don't have any actual knowledge. And the Lead Safe Homes website will tell you that, okay? Now, you can see that the tenant actually has a spot to initial when the time comes. So keep this form handy. It's going to go to your winning tenant. Okay, so keep this one handy. And then obviously you have to initial it as well. Everybody see letter F, right? Agent's acknowledgement, that's you. So you got to basically tell the landlord about his obligations, which basically if it's built before 78 and a kid under the age of 6 wants to live there with his parents and they qualify, your hands are tied, dude. You're supposed to make it lead safe. And if they don't, it's not on you. You know, but they can't discriminate against those people too. If they try to weasel out of it and not rent to them or whatever, you know, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. So make sure you've had that conversation with them before you start spending your time trying to rent. Okay? All right, and then the owner is going to sign it. As you can see down below, owner lessor, put the date in there. The tenant eventually will sign it when you find your tenant, and then you have to sign it. Okay? This is a federal law, guys. If you don't get this filled out right, you can be liable for penalties that are pretty punitive. Okay? And then you want to put down the owner managing information for the tenant. Unless it's a large apartment complex, it's going to be the owner. Okay, so that would be their name, street address, apartment number, city, town zip, and their telephone number, because they need to be able to get a hold of the landlord. Okay. Once in a while, the tenant will refuse to sign the certification. For me, that's been a total of 0 times in my entire life. But I guess apparently they have the right to not sign it. Okay, and you have the right to put down a reason if they tell you why they wouldn't sign it. Okay. Then obviously the address has to go at the bottom. At the bottom. All right. All right. Page 12 is our KWRSP rental listing form. So if you're not going to do an MLS listing, print out to give to Lindsay, fill this bad boy out. And note at the bottom, what does it say? Everybody see it there? Rental.
Give from Lindsay.
No longer be for rental. Look how big that sucker is too, right? That's got to go on all your ads, everybody. Okay. So that's what goes to Lindsay. Okay. Now, coronavirus is lifted. Things are back to normal. Everything's good. Market's roaring hot because of all this pent up demand. Everybody went back to work and had these gigantic stimulus checks and all that stuff. And everybody's just loaded to go find rents, right? You can probably get a fee from the tenant. So you're going to use page 13. If you get a fee from the tenant. This one's best for the tenants, okay? And remember, guys, email this to them prior to the showing. Email this to them and expect them to let them know you expect this thing to be signed before they can see the property, okay? And it's pretty much simple as follows. You'll pay us a fee as follows. And what you can put in here is upon tenants signing a lease to rent 123 Main Street, Apartment 1. Okay, that may be the smart thing to do, because otherwise they say, well, I'm not going to sign that because I'm not going to pay you a fee if I don't get the apartment. Is that fair? Yeah, they should only pay if they get the apartment, okay? And then basically how much it's going to be, so half a month, full month, whatever, upon the successful signing of the lease or rental papers to rent such and such address, okay?
So
David?
Rick,
Yeah.
so if we're the agent for the landlord, and, you know, a buyer comes in that's not represented by anybody, we become their representative as well, which is why they're possibly going to be paying us. Can we like make it so that each pay 50% or?
Okay, first of all, there is no representation in a rental yet. The agency laws are very specific, guys. It's only for buyers and sellers. Landlords and tenants, no. Except for that one form I showed you, when you have a listing from a landlord, you do need to give them that they're the landlord and you work for the landlord, because they're paying you the fee to rent their apartment, okay? You do not have to get that same form signed if you end up getting an apartment from, or getting someone like who was a Dave Cutler, right? You wanted somebody from Britain wanted to rent an apartment, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to get that agency form signed from the tenant. You could just have the fee disclosure if you're going to charge them a fee. Okay, does that make sense, Scott? So yes, in non-coronavirus times, you could say to the landlord, I'm going to do a half a month's fee from you and a half a month's fee from the tenant. And as long as you tell everybody that, then you'll be fine. That would go back to page, what was it, 12, 13? That's all right. Nope.
Is it even wise to do that, 50-50?
If it all depends on the economics. How's the economy doing? If there are more tenants than apartments, yes. In fact, if it's really hot, you can probably say the landlord in the amount of 0 and the tenant in the amount of 1 full month. Okay.
Sure.
In hot places, that's how they pay it. Okay. So if you're going to be charging the tenants a fee, guys, have this filled out. Do at least one that you fill out that says what your fee is going to be in the property address upon a successful agreement or rental agreements. Sign it. Don't date it. Put your license number and everything, and then make a bunch of copies, because all then you have to fill out is the tenant's name and the date and send it to each one of them. Okay. So you're going to make a bunch of copies of these bad boys. If and when the time comes again, you can get a fee. If and when the time comes. Right now is not the time to be trying to get a fee from the tenant. Okay. All right, here's that rental application form, page 14. Okay. A couple things I want to point out on here. As you can see, you get the name and all that stuff. At the top, I have circled initial of over 18 years of age. So if they hand it back to you and that's not initialed, or they email it to you, it's not initialed, you got to kick it back to them. Because why? You may know what you can't do when you're 17 or 16 or 15.
On a contract.
In Massachusetts, yep, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Had that argument with my 17-year-old son who's like, fine, Dad, sell my car. I'll go out and buy another one. I'm like, no, you won't. You dumbass. Then I looked, I got my first ex, I have former landlord. See right there? So ask them if they hand it back to you or they email it to you and it's blank, just question it. Just say you didn't rent from anybody else other than Brian Walensky. He's the only landlord you had? Okay, fine. That's fine. It was the only person you had, okay? Occupation, source of income, I wrote pay stub. So as long as you tell the tenants ahead of time, hey, I appreciate you applying for the apartment. Along with this rental application, would you please email me a copy of your pay stub? They will. They always do. Anybody that does rentals know that they'll just do that stuff, okay? Next X I've got, in case of emergency. So far, just once, but I have had a tenant die in the apartment and I had to call the family, okay? Things that you're not gonna have them do. Credit reference, bank, checking account, bank, savings account, that stuff should all come off there. I mean, you're not supposed to have anybody's bank account numbers, right? Whoa, this form's got to get amended. This is terrible. They should fill out the names of all co-tenants, right? And then you see where it says my bottom X there, are you a convicted felon? Yes or no? All right. If they read through it, they're supposed to answer that, okay? And then up to you if you want to fill in the base rent per month, key lock, last month's security deposit, any of that stuff over there you can, okay? Toward the bottom in capital letters, this application must be acted upon by the owner on or before. Don't you dare fill that in, let them. It's up to them. If they fill that date in and say, I want it acted on by, tomorrow, then you got to give them an answer by that time, okay? But if it's blank, then you can sit on it, right, Scott? Because they didn't answer, they didn't say when they wanted to have it by, okay?
So, sorry, I'm how to think of this question here. If they left that blank, you need to get an answer from them, right? Or can you just have it, no?
Yeah, whenever you get around to it, But sometimes a tenant that needs to move, they're gonna send you this back and they're gonna say, Scott, I hope you don't mind, but I filled in that the application must be acted on by, within 48 hours, because I really gotta decide between this place and something else I'm looking at, okay?
Okay,
But leave that up to them to fill in, okay?
okay,
And where it says renting agency, again, you want to sign one of these and then scan it in so you've got your signature on it. You don't want to keep signing them over and over and over again. Just sign the one. And then make sure the applicant signs it. Now, I recommend one application per adult, okay? Not that the both of them fill out the same form. It should be each of them fills out one of these bad boys, okay? Questions on that?
real quick, Rich, just because some of the left-hand side of this page has been cut off when I printed it.
Oh, shoot.
The X's under former landlord, in case of emergency, and credit reference, those are X's to say, yes, we need those?
Credit reference says no. Don't
That's
need
a
it.
no.
Yeah, no under credit reference, no under bank checking account, no under bank savings account. So
Okay.
the X's are under former landlord, in case of emergency, name of all co-tenants, and are you a convicted felon?
Okay,
Okay.
so the credit reference, that comes with the Sanjonics and whatever that thing
Yes.
is?
And that's our next page, yep. So
Okay.
and those guys, class, don't send this form out to them, okay? Send them the blank one. Just these are for you to know when you get them back. If they don't have those 4 things filled out, you may want to ask. You may want to ask, okay? Oh, hey, you didn't put down in case of emergency. The landlord just wants to know who we should notify, just in case something happens, okay? But you don't have a former landlord, really? You sure about that? You can't rack your brain to remember another place you rented from? Just because if you find it on Sangionics, now you know that they lied, okay? All right, questions on the app? Now here's what you gotta do for Sangionics, guys, okay? This is the tricky part. You have to have an actual application in front of you to start the ball rolling. So what usually happens, you show on the weekends, don't you, right? And then a landlord or tenant's gonna fill this stuff out on Saturday afternoon and send it over to you, and you're all excited and you wanna get the Sangionics thing going, and they don't open up till Monday morning, okay? So tell the tenants, hey, it's going to be at least a couple, 3 days before I can have a chance to get your application acted on. So just bear with me and we'll get it done, okay? Here's what you need to get Sangionics going. It's on page 15, okay? So you're going to have, because you've gotten an application here in front of you, signed by a tenant. They say, I'm trying to rent a place. You got to send that to Sanjonics, and then they'll say, okay, we're going to send you step one. The first page is a 17-page service agreement, which I have here for you. Okay, it's in the handout, I believe. You can complete it, send it back to us with a letter of intent, which I also have in here, indicating, and I've got it all there on the letter of intent. You want to send them a void check, your own void checking account. That just proves you have a checking account and you are who you are, okay? You got to send them a copy of your real estate license, copy of your driver's license. You might want to make all this stuff ahead of time, okay? And a copy of the one signed and dated rental application, okay? Hopefully your phone number is listed, because if it's not, you got to do this thing under paragraph G. We have taken care of F and H for you, okay? Step 3 is then they're going to send you the entire 17-page service agreement with the information you provided. You got to read it, correct any errors, complete the credit card page so they get paid, and sign and date all signature pages and send it all back. Okay, you can scan an email from here from the office if you have to. Otherwise, you can do it from your home scanner. Okay. We don't need to worry about step 5 because we have had our own physical inspection and we passed. Okay, and then they usually get a call back when your account is all set up within 24 hours. Okay? This is probably going to take a total of about 48 hours. Okay. Step 7, your account's all set. They'll give you the password and username, and you go to their website, bcheck411.com or something like that. They'll tell you all about that, okay? And then you can log on and pull the credit reports, okay? So that's how you start it. Now, here's information you're going to need. I believe page 16 is the actual page 1 of their service agreement. So if you can use this for your templates, got the information already pre-printed that you might need, okay? Page 17 is your letter of intent. So all you got to do is put your name in, sign it, and that goes with the application, okay? Here's your credit card form that they're going to send you, okay? Don't have to fill this one out. I just want you to be familiar with it. They're going to want to have your credit card information. It's like $15, but they'll basically go ahead and give you, give you the full-blown everything. It comes in 3 different emails. First is credit report. Then you get another pop-up bubble later saying you got a secure email from Sanjonics, and it's the criminal background check. And then later it says you got another secure email from Sanjonics, and it's the criminal housing court. I call it the deadbeat tenant report, if they stiff somebody or not. Okay. And with any luck, all 3 of those are good credit. Never were a felon, no criminal background, and they never have a record in the housing court. Okay. So now you're good. You accepted the tenants. You're ready to go. You've got to decide, or your landlord already decided, if you're doing a lease through 22 or tenant at will. So we'll cover this one first, okay? As you can see, much of this stuff, guys, is already pre-printed in, okay? Page 19, you're going to put a date on there. Obviously, the apartment number, the address, the landlord's, all their information, okay? Landlord's address is where they want to get the checks mailed to. If it's a P.O. box or whatever, that's fine. But that goes on here, okay? And you need their telephone number. If the tenant's got an emergency, they need to be able to call them, okay? Then you put in the tenant's name information, term of the lease, what day it starts and what day it ends, okay? For maintenance, the tenant should contact, usually it's gonna be the landlord, but it could be somebody else, okay? Now, very important, paragraph 1, rent. On or before the first day of every month in advance, tenant must pay the monthly rent, which is blank, okay? Notice on the left, it says tenant in a big block. I've got X's by it, right? Those 2 guys have to be initialed by the tenant. The initial that they acknowledge what the rent is, and if they're going to be having to pay any kind of prorated tax increase, and heat and utilities. They acknowledge that what they have to pay for heat and utilities. So be very careful to check off what is to be paid by the tenant and what's paid by the landlord, if anything, okay? Pretty simple, but if the tenant's responsible for gas, electricity, and or even fuel oil, check those boxes, okay? Questions on page 19?
So in my instance, Rich, if my tenant, has the water or whatever taken care of by the complex, then we would not check that off under paragraph 2.
Sewer, guys, in an apartment should never be checked off. I don't even know why that's in here. In an apartment building, they never have separate meters. It's just 1 meter for the water. So the water and sewer shouldn't be on there. So for an apartment lease, that's just a waste to print. I don't know why they even put it in there. But really, gas, electricity, and fuel oil are about the only 3 that the tenants ever could possibly pay. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Page 20, which is the second page of the lease, really has nothing on it except you notice I put an X by paragraph 7. What does that say?
No parking is allowed on the landlord's property without the landlord's permission.
So it's written in there right now that you can't park. So you've got to make an amendment on that. You can either add a text box or put it under paragraph, I think it's 30. So we'll cover that, okay? But make sure if parking is allowed that you amend it. Okay, class, everybody got that? And note under paragraph 8 as well. Animals, no dogs, cats, birds, any other animals may be kept in the apartment. So immediately right here it says no pets. So you don't have to reiterate it if it's a no pet place. If there are pets allowed, you have to Z out, cross off this paragraph and write in what's allowed. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And paragraph page 21, which is page 3 of this, it's all again just, what happens if they don't pay, if they do pay. And then you get to page 22, which is the 4th page of the lease, additional provisions, okay? You could put in whatever you need to put in here. Generally, if you use an addendum, you put addendum. Tenant lead law, if it's built before 1978, definitely reference your tenant lead law, okay? And if they're taking a security deposit, you want to also reference your apartment condition statement. And if they're paying anything other than last of security, anything other than first month's rent, you want to use your rent and security form, okay? If you're collecting anything other than just the first month's rent, all right? And then the tenant's signage, there's up to 3 spots for the tenant, 4 spots actually. If you can get a guarantor at the bottom, guys, somebody says, hey, I'll sign on, I'll personally guarantee the rent, take it. Always get a guarantor. If the tenant turns out to be a deadbeat and the guarantor's got the money, you can collect, okay? And then eventually the landlord will sign this too, all right? Now, if your landlord wanted a tenancy at will, that's this 2-page form here, pages 23 and 24. Pretty much the same stuff. You get your information of the person, the tenant's information, what the property is, what it is that you're renting, how much, when, payable on what day, and is it each month or week or whatever, and when it starts, okay? Paragraph 2 talks about maintenance. So again, if it's gonna be somebody other than the landlord, you put them in there, okay? Not much else on page 23. Second page of the lease of the tenancy of will is page 24. Notice 9 and 10. Same thing, right? No parking and no pets. So again, on the pre-printed forms, they kind of encourage not having pets or parking, okay? But this is only a 2-page form. As you can see at the bottom, again, additional provisions under paragraph 20. I put in things like what I've received from the tenant, first month's rent, security deposit, et cetera. See the tenant lead law, again, always want to reference that. Addendum if you use it, apartment condition statement if you're taking a security deposit, and the rent and security deposit form, okay? And again, everybody signs it, landlord signed it. The second tenant line got kind of cut off there, sorry. But there is a spot for 2 tenants to sign. And if you have more than 2 tenants, the boxes are big enough they can squeeze their signatures in there, okay? That's the actual lease agreement. Remember, we did the tenant lead law with the landlord. So now you're gonna have the tenant sign that tenant lead law and return a copy to everybody, okay? You also gotta do, the fee disclosure would have been signed if they're paying a fee. To get paid, you need to do an invoice. And this is on .loop as well. This is the sample form of it. Basically, just submit this to whoever's supposed to pay you with the amount that's due so that they can send you a check, okay? Now, if the landlord's gonna be holding a security deposit, then before the tenant moves in, the landlord has to fill out the apartment condition statement. The landlord fills it out, okay? So let's look at that. That's page 26 in your handout, okay? Landlord will fill in what's wrong with the place now. If there's nothing wrong, they leave it blank. Simple, okay? This one's blank, okay? Now you get this back from the landlord and you have it ready for the tenant. When you find out who the tenant's gonna be, you fill in information. It says to lessee, that's the tenant, okay? You put in all the information and you give a copy of this to the tenant, a copy. Keep a copy for yourself, okay? They have 15 days after they move in to discover if there's anything wrong with the apartment. So that's a little fraught with peril, isn't it? They could do damage themselves, right? If they did, your landlord's kind of SOL. They return it within 15 days, then this copy that they returned becomes what the court's going to consider to be the actual condition of the apartment. Make sense? Okay.
Can you take pictures?
Yeah, you can take pictures. You know, if you're worried about it, Tricia, what I usually recommend when the cities are open is you have the health department come out and take a look at it. Now, if there's a health violation, now the clock's ticking for the landlord to have to fix that stuff. Okay. So, but if you get a clean bill by the Board of Health, I mean, it can be very powerful. You get a bad tenant and they call the Board of Health on you, and the same guy shows up and he says, "What's the problem?" "Well, I have mice, or I have cockroaches or whatever." "No kidding, because I was here right 4 months ago and there wasn't this problem. So obviously you caused it, Miss Tenant. So why don't you fix it yourself?" And they'll handle the problem for you. Okay. So I used to do that back when the market was bad, like 08, 09, 2010, when there were a lot of bad tenants out there because the whole economy was down. But now I haven't done that in a while because usually good tenants are out there. Okay. You find good tenants. So that's probably the statement.
Ronnie, I have a question. Now,
Yep.
the department condition statement,
Yep.
have the landlord fill it out and he puts his information in the box. We give a copy to the tenant, and the tenant also a blank copy, or the copy with the landlord's information in it.
Copy with the landlord's information in it and whatever they filled in about the condition of the premises. Okay. Is that
Now,
right?
if the tenant signs something, do they they just make a list and give it back?
Yeah, it says right on here, this statement must be returned to the lessor or his agent within 15 days after you receive this list, or 15 days after you move in, whichever is later.
Okay, so where do they have room to fill in their information? They fill in the same block?
In that same box, or they can actually attach a separate sheet and just say, "See attached separate sheet." Okay. If they have problems on, if they find a lot of stuff, then yeah, they're going to end up having to attach a different sheet. Okay. Generally speaking, if you deliver a nice, clean, clear place that's not in bad shape, you're going to be fine. They won't find much. Okay. If anything at all. And a lot of times they forget to return it. And so now this blank one that you have, that's the one. That's the one because it wasn't returned. Okay. That's why you want to keep a copy for yourself and a copy for the landlord. Make sense, everybody? All right. Page 27, if somebody does do damage, let's not go there. But give that to the landlord so they can figure out what to do with it, okay? And page 28 and 29 are going to be your rent and security deposit receipt, okay? So let's go over this form because if people give you checks, you need to fill it out. So, okay, so the lessee would be the tenant. You put in the address of the place again. When you meet with them and they give you a check, you will then fill in the check number or numbers and the amount that they gave you, okay? And also fill in what it was for. Was it for first month's rent? Okay, if it is such and such date to such and such date, and how much it was, okay? Was it last month's rent? And you put in the amount. Was it security deposit or installation of the lock and key? Again, all the amounts go over on the right, okay? If the landlord's taking a security deposit, you're gonna fill out the security deposit paragraphs below. Landlord acknowledges receipt from the lessee of blank amount of money, okay? Now this is the tenant's money, everybody. So that's why the landlord has to go with the next page 30, the W-9, to a bank and open up the account, okay? That's basically what all this tells you under paragraph A, B, C, and on page 29D, all about the laws of the security deposit, okay? As required by law, it says the security deposit is presently or will be held in a separate interest-bearing account. The account number will be filled in by the landlord later on because guess what you can't do? So you have the check and the W-9 and go and open the account. You can't get the account number, right? So you're going to have to send them the account number later. That makes sense, everybody? So let them know you will fill in the account number and re-email them this form. But you should definitely know ahead of time where your landlord is going to go. Are they going to go to Eastern Bank? They're going to Citizen, Santander, wherever they're going, let them know what's the address of the bank and what city and town. Because again, this is the tenant's money, everybody. They have a right to know where it is, okay? And then the last paragraph down there talks about if there's last month's rent, okay? Interest on the loan, on the money, has to be paid. Has to be paid. Remind your landlords of that. In fact, a great touch would be if the person moved in on April 1st, about March 15th or so of the following year, you reach out to your landlord and say, hey, don't forget to pay so-and-so rent on their deposits. Oh, thank you so much for that, Ronnie. I would have forgot. Oh my gosh, you're right. Thank you so much, okay? It's a great little touch. You say, no problem at all. Hey, anything else I can do to help you? Yeah, I was thinking about buying another two-family. Matter of fact, it's so funny you called. I can help you with that. Okay, but then remind them too that if they go and spend that last month's rent, they got to give the tenant 5% on their money, 5%. So if you got a $2,000 last month's rent and you spent it, you got to give them $100. Ouch. In 20 years, you gave them the whole money back. So tell them to keep at least $2,000 in their checking account at all times. That way, if they ever said, the tenant ever said, show me your checking account for the last year, they could always show that they had a minimum of $2,000 in there. Okay? And then they just give them the 0.0001%, which is what I got. So here's what you do. You can tell you these landlords, well, I'm not going to send them a check for 22 cents. Like, no. I know it was less than $1. Here's what you do. Tell your tenant for the next month's rent on your anniversary, it's supposed to be $2,000. Send me a check for $1,998 and keep the $2 for your interest. There you go. That's what I do. Okay. That's how you do it. You just tell them to take a couple bucks off on their anniversary rent, and that's how they pay the interest. Make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
So if your landlord's like, oh, I don't even want to hold a security deposit because it's so much work and you got to do that interest thing and I don't want to keep track of it, it's really not. It's really not. Okay. It's literally the apartment condition statement. Okay. Page 28, 29, rent and security deposit receipt, and the W-9, page 30. Okay. So have this one handy. This one's got to be signed in ink by the tenant. Okay. They're going to fill it all in with their social security number, their address, which by this point now, it should be the address of the apartment they're moving into. And they sign it in ink, and you collect this from them somehow, or have them mail it to you, mail it to the landlord. Landlord takes that with the money, the check, to the bank and open up a security deposit account, and you're done. So if you guys do a .loop class or soon to be DocuSign with Terry Pence, all this stuff she'll show you how to start it in the loops and create the loops and have it in the loop. And once you've got all this stuff into your .loop, and the checks come in, you're going to get paid, which is great. All right. So what I suggest you do with these 30 pages is keep them handy for your templates and your ideas to refer back as you're going through your rentals. Make sense?
Yes.
And as you're doing them, any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. When the office is back open, I'm literally the next office down from Alicia, if you guys don't know that. For those of you I haven't met, please, when you're in, and we can actually shake hands, come in and say hi. For now, if you come in, stay outside of my green rug on the brown, please. More than 6 feet away. And don't hesitate to call or email me or text me or whatever. If I'm not busy, I will get back to you, certainly as quickly as I can. All right. But the big thing I want you to know about, like Alicia, our team leader, is she's not supposed to answer real estate related questions. That's stuff for like me and Steve Zabosky and Al Stiles. Okay, we're the actual day-to-day doing the real estate. She's responsible for your referrals for agents that want to come work here or you want to have come work here, for recruiting them, retaining them. She's responsible for keeping you guys happy with your trainings and stuff like that. I'm responsible for answering your day-to-day, out there in the trenches type of questions. Makes sense? So
Right.
reach out to me about that. Okay?
I will be
All right.
bothering you.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry to take an extra 12 minutes, but it was pretty important. We kind of had to get this done. So any questions?
No?
I have a question. It's not related. It's more on a personal thing, so I don't know if I should just. It's just that my daughter's in a rental now. That's about it. She was on a 6-month lease that they took over, and they were going to have the chance to renew it. Since then, they sold it. The person sold it. Now they told them they have to be out,
Okay.
but the broker she's working with won't show them any apartments due to the coronavirus. So she's sending them pictures, but they don't obviously want to rent without seeing it. And I know people are telling them to just stay put. She doesn't really want to do that either, but I don't know. Is any?
They should stay put until they can find a place. The housing courts are all closed. The landlords can't evict them. That's also one of the things Charlie Baker mandated: no evictions.
Yeah.
So tell them don't sweat it. Once things get open again, then they have to start the whole eviction process, which takes usually 45 to 180 days. It's not fast.
That's
So
what I thought.
you got till at least May 4th, which then again, they got to keep paying the rent. Okay, keep sending in what they've agreed upon in rent. And each time the landlord accepts it, that's another 30 days.
See, the problem is it's a new owner now, and
Right.
they're telling them that the owner has to move in that date and they have to be out.
It's too
They
tough.
Yeah, that's
Tough.
what okay.
tough.
That's
No,
what I figured.
they don't have to be. No, I'm sorry. It's a coronavirus. It's a pandemic. If they could find a place and get out, great. No,
Okay, great.
they don't have
And
to.
I have a really dumb question because I'm very new to this. So all these forms are found on Dot Loop, did you say?
On Loop. Yep.
Okay, I've never done it, so.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, if you have a chance, you'll with Terry Pence, you probably would have set up your Loop account. You can go in there and play around with it. Make fictional loops if you want to, but otherwise just do a Loop class, and she'll talk you through the basics of it. Once you get it down, it's pretty basic and easy, and it saves you so much time.
Okay.
And so easy. You could be writing contracts and stuff in your pajamas with a coffee or a glass of wine, and it's wonderful stuff.
I hope so, because I just got a listing, but I didn't know where to get the things, the forms.
Yay! Congratulations.
Great, but I don't know how to do it.
Oh, okay. Have you been assigned a mentee or a mentor? I mean, yeah.
No, Donna said she was going to do that.
Okay. Yep. We'll work with getting you somebody, and then they'll help you through all the paperwork. Yeah, that's great.
That would be great. All right,
That
I don't
sounds
need
good,
to hold you up.
Congrats.
All right. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions, guys, or no?
I think we're good, Rich. Thank you.
All right, everybody.
very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Rich,
Watch
Rich,
some more
I have
classes
one.
soon. Yeah, Brian.
I'm gonna have one, but can I give you a call real quick? It's not related to this at all.
Yes. The problem is I have my mother's car because she had problems with battery and stuff, and she does not have Bluetooth, so I'll have to have you on speaker in the car.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a 2-minute question.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank
All
you.
right, so call me in
Thank
like
you very much.
the
Bye,
Wi-Fi.
Rich.
Give me like
Have
10
a good
minutes.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. I'll call you 10
Thanks.
minutes. Thank you.
Sounds good. Bye now.
Thanks.
You guys.